What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Card Hedge Podcast. I'm your co-host, Omar, aka Retro Hoops. I got the lovely JD with me today. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, my man? How are you doing today?
Pretty excited. Pretty excited. We've been batting 1,000 with the guests, and
yeah.
I don't see it getting in. I don't see it deviating from that.
Yeah, I think after this guest, we're gonna have to go from average to OPS so we can raise it above 1. So, I know you don't know what OPS is, but I'll explain it to you.
That's what I'm laughing at. I'm laughing at the fact that I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's all right. I'll get you there.
But that's what I was gonna say. You'll get me there eventually at some point. So, folks, without further ado, I mean, there's no reason that this man needs no introduction. He is in my opinion, one of the top people in this hobby, one of the more interesting people to talk to. And today, we're gonna have some fun because I think we're gonna take this podcast, this interview, in a completely different turn than what you're used to hearing from our particular guest today. So, with that being said, I'd like to bring on Peter from SGC. Good evening, sir. How are you? Welcome aboard, man.
I'm good, man. Yo. That was some introduction there. Bring them out.
Bring them out. You know what? I gotta figure out. I gotta figure out how to do sound.
Walk-up music. Yeah. There you go.
That's it.
That's what sucks about YouTube actually, you know what? No, yeah, there it is, because this goes to YouTube. We can't play music because then we're in violation of copyright.
What? I gotta figure out something. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure out. I gotta figure out entrance music, because you're absolutely correct. That is the one thing that we're missing. And to be honest with you, yeah, I mean, okay, we'll run into some monetizing crap, but who cares, man? It's all about making a dope product.
You know what? Let's start right there, Pete. What would be your
walkout music? That's a good question, JD.
It's hard to say. Maybe somewhere between like The Undertaker, probably, which is a good one.
Which Undertaker? Kid Rock Undertaker or the original? Kid Rock Undertaker or the original?
No, I'm talking the original. I don't think I even know what a Kid Rock Undertaker is.
Well, and he came back as like the American badass there on his Harley. Remember that?
Yeah. I see what you're showing. No, I think you're talking about like the church bell.
Yeah.
I'm talking like OG Undertaker.
Yeah, all right. I'm down with that. That's classic. That's good stuff.
If that's the route that we're going, then I'm definitely going Stone Cold Steve Austin with the glass break. Are you kidding me?
All right.
That'd be epic. Where you at, JD? Walkout music.
I'm gonna go Ultimate Warrior.
Ooh.
Just wait, have a heart attack because I'm out of shape, and then just be done.
I got 5 good moves in me, and then that's it. After that.
Remember, like back in the day, like the Royal Rumbles and whatnot, or it was the Royal Rumbles, like hacks. The bushwhackers would come out like this, and just walk into the ring, and they get thrown right the hell out. And
You a big wrestling fan, Peter?
You know what's funny, man? Speaking of Royal Rumbles, I was a huge wrestling fan in the WWF days.
Okay.
I specifically remember I have a really, really, really awesome grandfather who I still have today, and he's just as awesome today as he was back then. But he used to buy us the pay-per-view Royal Rumbles, I'd have all my friends over. Dude. I was probably, I don't know, maybe I was 11 years old.
Yeah, 10, 11.
We'd bet. It was probably $5 at the time, but we each bet on a wrestler, and we'd go nuts. Watching the Royal Rumble. That was a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah. That is awesome. That's a blessing. You got your grandparents still, man. That's
So while we're on the topic, because I've done a lot of these kind of YouTube interviews, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that I've mentioned him yet, and he definitely watches all of them. He is awesome. He was not into cards when I started at SGC.
Really?
He's now a big card collector.
Big card guy.
Oh yeah. He begs me. He buys these cards, guys. He's a product of kind of like the 50s Brooklyn Dodger days.
Yeah. Okay.
And he does not spend a lot on these cards, but he'll buy like these beater kind of 51, 52 Bowmans, that kind of stuff. And every time I see him, he's got a new stack to show me that he just bought on eBay.
Nice.
And once in a while, he'll dabble in like modern and things like that, and I'm like, Gramps, like, don't, like he'll show me a Mookie Betts base card in an SGC 10, and he's like, I got this for only $5. I'm like, well, there's a reason for that, that kind of thing. But he's an awesome dude, and he enjoys tuxedo time for sure.
That's awesome, man. So you took him from
he gets all fired up. Oh, sorry, man.
So
go.
I'm not joking, JD. It's actually a really cool thing, like a really cool thing, because I don't get to experience the customer experience directly, I guess, except for him. Yeah. So the way that it works is I pay for his orders. Honestly, I don't charge him for his orders. So I fill out the invoice. I go through the site, and what ends up happening is, especially in the past when times were so crazy and we'd get backed up on this turnaround time that's so precious to us, he'd say, hey Pete, could I have an order? And I'd be like, Gramps, like,
no, not right now.
Not this month. Not this month. So it was kind of on a special occasion basis. And he actually just gave me an order that he's looking, I think he's hoping to get it back like Christmas time. His orders sit. It's funny. You'd think priority. Opposite. So the poor guy is just begging for some slabs. And what was cool, I come from, I'm a Jewish guy from Long Island. And my grandpa is a big fan of a place called Ben's Deli, and there was a dinner, probably this is a few months back, and I was not supposed to show up. I don't even remember. Maybe it was an occasion, whatever it was. I wasn't supposed to be there, and I end up surprising him.
Oh, no.
I have a box behind my back, and it's the tuxedo time box. And he was like, he's going through the cards in the restaurant. It was really, really cool. I mean, it's cool to see him too discover stuff he's into. And oh my God, I did not think we'd be talking about my grandfather.
Dude, this is awesome. I love
That's what happens on the show, buddy. That's what happens.
Exactly. He's super into, like, he brought over a card the other day. It's like a tobacco card for, I think it's a Churchman cigarette card, which is made overseas, of like Queen Elizabeth's sister. And he's trying to convince me that this is a cool card. And I'm just like, I don't know, Gramps. But it's a cool thing to, I'm very thankful that he's got to see, not all my grandparents have got to experience kind of like the SGC of today. And it's very cool to be able to have him watch these things and kind of enjoy the craziness that is the hobby today.
Holy crap, man. Look at these Churchman tobacco howler cards from 1937.
Yeah, they're interesting ones. He's just got a funky kind of, everyone has a different taste of collecting, and he definitely has a kind of he's all over the place.
Yeah. That's good though.
That's like his 90s though for me, like that kind of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
JD, before we leave the topic of my grandfather, which I'm looking to do kind of soon, it's getting real in depth here. But the one thing I have to mention is this: he actually belongs to kind of like an SGC, I don't know, like a buy-sell trade group, actually.
Oh, nice.
And he thinks, don't get me wrong, he's a younger guy for, considering I'm 28 years old. I'm very lucky to have him. He's a younger grandpa, and he's very with it. So he's got a Facebook. He's in this group. But he'll text me on a given day, and he'll be like, Pete, they're saying that, the cards took 4 days and they're wondering if something's wrong. And I'm like, Gramps, nothing, like, don't listen to him. I'll see these little things. And so he's kind of my assistant here.
That's awesome. He's like your public barometer. He can kind of
exactly.
give you the lowdown.
I tell him all the time. I say, Gramps, do not tell them that you're my grandpa. Just don't avoid them.
Oh my God.
So
his inbox would be like, he'd break Facebook.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he'd definitely be in that inbox for a long time, fielding a lot of customers. You might have to put him on the payroll, Pete.
Yeah, exactly.
That ends up being the case. That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude, cool. I love that stuff, man. Whenever you can take somebody that, like, obviously we're all into. I was just telling JD this, right? We're all in this hobby, this little niche, this little world that's kind of detached from like everything else, right? And it's almost the beauty of what we're into, right? Because we're doing this stuff, and it's a bit of an escape sometimes from family, from the stresses of the world. It gives you an opportunity.
For you, it is.
Well, yeah, it's obviously different for you, right? But from a pure collecting standpoint,
right?
whenever you can bring somebody that you care about at that deep of a level, like in this case, your grandpa, who wasn't even into this, and you brought him from zero to now he's on Facebook groups, wheeling and dealing and, you know, showing you all this cool stuff, man. That, to me, that's like the end game, right? Is to have fun doing what we're doing and getting into all these things. And then all of a sudden have somebody see, and I'm pretty sure a lot of it was driven from your passion of it all, right? Is that, you know, he kind of got a peek at like, wow, there's some passion there. You're really happy doing that. What's that all about? What you got going on over there? Then all of a sudden they get a little taste, and it's
exactly. You know? The cool thing, Omar, it's really come full circle, man, because he was buying us boxes as kids, like me and my brothers as kids. And, you know, even back then, you know, I was into like the good cards. I didn't want the bad cards. He was paying up for these boxes. And I think, you know, talk about full circle, man. It's really, really cool because he was not a guy. So many people were into the hobby once upon a time, left, and then rediscover their passion. What's kind of even more special to me is, I mean, he had cards as a kid, like every kid in the 1950s, but he wasn't really a huge collector. And it's cool to see him catch the bug. It shows me, like, I don't know, this hobby, whether, you know, the market's up, the market's down, every market fluctuates, but this is a real thing, man. It really is so much fun. It really is.
That's awesome, man.
That's
you know what? That's awesome.
That segues perfectly, since we're talking about your grandfather's pickups. That segues perfect into the pickups of the week.
That's right. See, once again, this is another opportunity for music here. I feel like I should be pushing a button, and there should be like music that tells us that it's pickup of the week time. So,
Bob Barker in the background going,
"Come on down." All right. So, who went first last time? Actually, we'll let Peter go first. Peter, you're ready to fire off.
The guest always goes first.
So I've kind of changed my, you know, in my office, it's like 10 slots where cards can kind of fit on this piece of furniture behind me. And in the past, I was going kind of like my best stuff in the office, and I've changed that a bit. And now instead, I'm actually going. Instead of going kind of like my higher end stuff, it's more PC that I've changed it to. And I have a wacky PC that is greatly based on what I collected as a kid. So for example, like this set that this card came out of was hands down my absolute favorite product ever, up until the point when I kind of joined SGC and my taste got a little, I guess you'd say, refined, whatever it is. But this set, when I was a kid, was just the coolest thing in the
world of the trade.
So that's 2005 Absolute Memorabilia Baseball, and I think you're getting a good look at it.
Yep, we got it.
That Gary Sheffield.
Exactly. What was so cool, and by the way, that card I picked it up on eBay recently for like $25, something like that. And when I was a kid, that set came out, you know, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, relics really mattered. Like relics, I mean, it was the type of thing you opened not a cheap box, an expensive box, and there was one jersey card out of that whole box. And if it was a good player, you hit the box.
You
if
hit
it was a bad player, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Well, this product started putting not only multiple relics in the cards, but they would put, I don't know if you can see this card in particular. So it's a 6-piece relic, which was like mind-blowing for the time period.
Yeah. So you got some jersey in there. You got some baseball bat.
Omar, you got batting glove. You got batting glove, shoe, cap, fielding glove, jersey, and bat. Yeah. So it's kind of like, as a kid who was just a baseball fanatic, like I felt closer to the game with that set than any. And I just thought the set was so creative. And when I see this stuff, it brings back like insane nostalgia for me. So that's a recent pickup of mine. That's pretty close to not worthless, but it means a lot more in my heart, let's say, than in my wallet.
Absolutely. Those are the best kind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you? All right. So not to get off, we cannot get off on a tangent on this, but the game use stuff from back in the day, right? Does that hold a special, like more of a meaning to you as a collector than, you know, what some of the stuff we see going on today? Because what you just said about like bringing you
Feeling
closer to
close.
the game and
Yeah.
things like I feel the same way. Like
I'm with you on that.
what I could go on for hours about that stuff, but like I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what drives a lot of the nostalgia, right? I mean,
for sure. I mean, remember, my experience is different, guys, because I grew up at a time where at least I feel, this is not a scientific opinion, obviously, but there were not a lot of card collectors young card collectors, I should say. Obviously, the vintage side of the hobby has been chugging along for decades, but the people ripping that kind of product, young people, it just wasn't really
right.
I was an odd kid, honestly. Like the fact that I liked cards was not like what cards are today, where it's like, oh yeah, my neighbor collects cards, my friend collects cards. It was a very weird thing that I was into. And I don't know, man. I just think this era of cards where a bat card was like the coolest thing in the world. I happen to think that there's not that many in the hobby today that share that, simply because the era where that was a thing, it wasn't the most bumping era of the hobby.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a unique era, and I'm yet to find a ton of people that relate on that level to my specific nostalgia cards.
Yep.
That makes sense. But I hope the hobby gets back to a place where just having a cool patch means something. You know, because it should.
Right.
And
it should. Absolutely.
If it doesn't, I do think we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because how does that, think about it? How does that?
Well, I think that was one of my biggest rants this year in particular. I mean, I do a lot of ranting, granted, but this year in particular, what really chapped my ass was that, I was really excited, and I did a whole video just specifically on this topic because I was really excited as a collector this year to collect, and I had anticipated like putting a lot of money into collecting this year because, my Rockets are in terms of rookies are very stacked, and one in particular that I keep talking about is Alperen Şengün. I was really excited to collect a lot of his stuff, and I was already anticipating like, I'm gonna have to pay X amount of dollars for like the national treasure patches or these patch autographs. Like I was ready. I was already thinning out my collection on some of the non-PC stuff in preparation for this coming up year of collecting, because I was excited to collect this year. Only to find out that the patches don't mean anything this year. They're not associated. They're not. They're nothing, right? And that really let me down as a collector. And I think that's kind of where Panini missed the mark for a lot of collectors this year. Is the fact that I'm not going to get an RPA, right? That's the fact of the matter. I mean, they're making them, but they're autographs is what they are. So and to your point, Peter, is feeling that connection of getting that card and going, this is awesome because it's bringing me closer to the actual game. Because I know this is a game worn patch. Whatever the case may be, it just makes it. It's funny you have that absolute. I got my absolute John Wall right here. There was a pickup of the week a couple weeks ago for me, but you're absolutely right, man. I mean, these cards, $20, $25, you know what I mean? But it's that connection. It's that happiness that you get from this is game worn, and this is one of my favorite players, and it brings you a little closer to the game.
No, it's
Topps has like what is it in 03, I think 03, 04, something like game used or something. Topps game used or what is it? It's cald
like a specific product.
Worn. Well, it's a basketball product.
They have 05. I know. I actually own a few 05 SP game used. That year in particular has some really awesome cards. Like that era of cards was really, really cool. I mean, one of my favorite cards, not to almost get off topic of that particular set, but one of my favorite cards of all time, which actually pretty recently I've been lucky enough to pick up because it is a very high value card, is the 97 game jersey Jordan. And what I think is so awesome about that card, I mean, and believe me, I'm not trying to like believe me, I'm not trying to pump my own card. But I can tell you guys, like I think naturally we gravitate towards cards that we feel are undervalued because you're not going to buy something that you feel is overvalued, obviously. And it just means something to you greater than, I guess, the cost it takes to acquire the item. So with that 97 game jersey Jordan, I mean, not only is it like the first relic card for basketball, at least to my understanding,
it's the GOAT.
I mean, it's an all-star game jersey specified by Upper Deck in the coolest design you could ever ask for in the year 1997. The card's impossible to hit in general, let alone a Jordan. I mean, it just has everything going for it. And I think one of the problems with cards, and I've been saying this for really since I joined SGC, it's like there's just not enough people talking about that. It's all, I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot of noise out there. I don't know. It's hard to even envision what I want to happen. If that makes sense. But I more conversations like this, maybe. Where
absolutely.
Shooting the you know what about
2003, 2004 Topps Jersey Edition is the name of the product.
Jersey Edition. Okay. I have an Iverson one somewhere.
Yeah, pretty. Allen Iverson with the red back jersey, right?
He's got. I think he's got home and away.
Okay. That's how they did it with that one. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I don't know if they did that for everybody, but like I know the only reason I know that is because I have both of them. So
gotcha. Yeah, that was a good year. 03, 04. That's, let me see. They got a LeBron jersey, I'm assuming. Yep.
Yeah. LeBron's in there. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, draft night. All right, JD, you're up, brother.
All right, I'm up. All right, I'll go a little hockey first. Picked up my boy Cam Neely, 94 Donruss Elite Series. These are numbered out of 10,000. So
retro action
may not seem like a lot. It may seem like a high serial number, but I believe when they were printing these things in like the billions, they were pretty hard hit. And then this bad boy, I've been after for a long time. KG.
That is a monster pickup, bro.
For me, this is a big one. I got a couple others coming, but I've been after this card for a long time. I just couldn't pay, like Pete, like you were saying. There was a guy on eBay. I want to say he was in Puerto Rico. He's got two really nice copies, and they're both like $1,200. And I'm like, dude, they're going for like $200 to $300. I'll even pay $350 because it's a nice copy. Nope, $1,200. And I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
and then good old Facebook, the 90s basketball card group came through again, so
those Facebook groups are where it's at, man.
Happy to have that bad boy and put it with the rest of them.
What a pickup, man. That's a monster pickup, dude. I saw the posting where that popped up because JD invited me to that group, and I was just about to tag JD in it when I saw that he had already jumped on it and said sold. He didn't even argue. He didn't even try to haggle with the guy. None of it. He's like, sold, done. Message me right now. I was like, I was pumped. And that's dope, man, because I was pumped. I knew it was something. JD and I have been talking about that card for months now, for over a year now. And I was like, I saw it. I immediately, eyes went big, and I was happy to see that you had picked that up, man. That's a monster pickup, dude.
Yeah, that was a good one for me. So PC. I'm happy.
Good stuff, man. All right. I guess I'll go with mine. Which 1971.
Oh, nice.
Good old Dusty Baker rookie. My boys did it for Dusty this year.
Wow.
Went ahead and picked up that World Series for Dusty. Shout out to my boy Dan. He's the one that hooked me up with this one. We had been trying to make a deal on this card for like weeks as we were like in the playoffs, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I got to hurry up and buy that card because as we swept and then we swept the Mariners and then we swept the Yankees, and it's like, man, the price is gonna go up and up and up and up on that card. I got to jump on it. But luckily my man Dan hooked me up, man. He gave me a really good price on it, and I was pumped to have it. Good old Dusty in the in the PC. So this one's going in the Astros PC. And I mean, dude, we just everybody in the city completely rallied around Dusty Baker. And made sure that we got that World Series for him. So that was pretty dope. And 5.5 in a tuxedo, can't go wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that set is what's cool about that set is that every star, I guess you'd say almost like major star, and even the minor stars, like they carry some value. They're desirable just because it's a really cool. I mean, the design of that set, like in particular, like the 71 Ryan. I don't know if you could picture that offhand, but he's on the Mets. He's in action throwing. It's just an awesome set. I mean, the Clemente's cool. The Aaron, like that set is super condition sensitive because of the the black background, and I like that set a lot. I also love 1970 tops. I don't know if you guys could picture that offhand, but that's
the gray border stuff, right?
So the Nolan Ryan also in that set is one of my favorite cards. Cards are definitely cool.
That is
the 70 Nolan Ryan, the one where he's by the dugout, right? Like kind of holding his glove.
Yeah, he's a Che, and he's got that's exactly right.
19. So this is 71, right? Yeah.
That's 71. Yeah.
Man, that's a pretty.
Actually just got rid of a couple of Thurman Munson rookie cards. So
yeah. Well, that's also. I mean, talk about. I mean, obviously Munson's true rookie is in 70, but the 71 Munson is. It's got to be very up there. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily. I'm trying to think. Would that be considered kind of like the key card in this set? That's a big one. I mean, that 71 Munson in very high grade is super valuable. And that's also an awesome card. So,
yeah. I figured 5.5 on a 71 was pretty good grade considering all things considered.
Once you get I mean, really, if you're at a 5, okay, you could have like a very, 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 very minor wrinkle, kind of like on the back of the card. So when you've got a card above 5, you have a really good card, and any flaws that are on it, you likely can see. You know, much lower grades. That's when you could have glue on the back, residue where a card's taken out of an album. You could have a crease that you don't pick up with the naked eye. But when you're kind of batting over the grade of 5, you could assume like what you're seeing is exactly what you're getting, which is kind of a cool thing with buying mid grade and higher. You know, there's nothing
interesting.
That kind of thing. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, that's good to know. I would have never thought about it in that sense.
Yeah, like there's sets, especially like the N28 set, for example. It's actually a 19th century set, but they were made on kind of a thicker paper stock. So when you look at the cards, they're beautiful in the artwork and things like that. And so many times that's like the most common, why did my card get this grade? And it's almost always because there's some kind of glue residue. All of them were taken out of albums. So naturally, when there's any kind of external, source, any kind of external material on a card, we do have to kind of hit that rather hard. But your eye doesn't always pick up on it.
Doesn't pick up on it.
This thing was a 9. Why is it in a 2 type thing? Yeah.
Interesting.
That's interesting, man. You know what?
You have me on the show.
Like we learn some things every once in a while.
Yeah, that's right.
It's funny though, because that just even the way you guys are like, oh, interesting. That's what I did the first. Like, I'm still doing it today.
Yeah.
Like SGC truly, when I'm not, I guess doing my actual job, it's so much fun just to be around our grading team. I mean, it's a really cool place too.
I imagine the amount of nuances that you can pick up on from set to set are just infinite, right?
There's no doubt. At this point, I'm really, really good. I mean, when it comes to baseball, like vintage baseball, I can hang kind of with the best of them. My weakness that I enjoy talking about more than anything, because I'm learning so much from it, is Pokemon and that kind of thing. I think that whole universe is very interesting, and I think the fact that the CEO of SGC is even speaking about it in this way speaks volumes to our lack of participation in that market. But that will definitely be changing, guys. And to be honest, what we're debating internally is like, I shouldn't be the guy. I'm the guy when it comes to sports, because I collect basketball cards, football cards, baseball cards, really anything. When it comes to Pokemon, I actually do have a very deep appreciation for it. I was a base set collector only, like the original 151 Pokemon. I don't know how into Pokemon you guys are, but my knowledge ends with Mew, basically.
Where's my Snorlax? I took down my Snorlax the other day, but go ahead. Yeah,
exactly. I'm with you. So, basically it's going to be fun to I guess, I don't want to say break into that market because we've been there for quite a while, but in all honesty, we've been underserving that community of collectors for so long that whenever I find myself being educated, it's always on whether it's, vintage soccer a lot of the time or Pokemon, that kind of thing. And I find that stuff, I just love cards. I mean, there is a commonality across all this stuff. Remember, there's so many differences, which I've come to learn from the sports market to, let's say, the TCG community. Right. But at the same time, we're all putting these things around us in our offices and showing them off to our friends, and that's what's really special about it. And it's I love the hobby. It's cool.
TCG.
So I've got a question for you, and I don't want to, get into a whole heck of a lot, but one question I think, if I'm wrong on this, obviously correct me, but I think I heard you say once you went to the University of Florida. Is that correct?
Hell no. I went to Florida State University.
Oh, even better. Good.
Yeah.
So Coach Prime, we can talk Coach Prime then. But all right, so you're a Seminole.
Yeah.
You're at Florida State. The whole Bobby Bowden, all that good stuff, college football. How does a kid go from Tallahassee to Boca Raton and get into card grading and eventually the CEO?
Right. So
I've always wondered that.
Yeah. So it's funny. I was a card collector my whole life, as I said before, and a collector of all things: bobbleheads, autographs, game used memorabilia, cards. I mean, there wasn't a thing I didn't collect. Okay. Pokemon cards back then. I was just always into it. To it, honestly, JD, a little bit of like an obsessive degree, like a little bit where you almost say to yourself, like, almost like he's really like, I have an obsessive, I mean, personality, honestly. And it was to the nth degree. But what ended up happening is it was always a hobby for me, obviously. And like any kid, I was told by my parents, go to college, get a degree, work hard, that kind of thing. And I just always thought that I'd end up, in sales, marketing, or finance, like so many others. And what ended up happening after that, I toyed with the idea of teaching at one point. And what ends up happening, what ends up happening is I graduate from Florida State. I bounce around some like very early jobs. I'm talking very entry level stuff. Yep. And I end up, my mom told me actually that she saw a listing for this company called SGC. It's in Boca. And I was just like, holy crap. I am not kidding. And it sounds like I hate that it sounds like such BS now. Because now I'm almost like sitting at the big seat trying to act like I'm not, But it's a true story, guys. At the time, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I remember I was sitting in her driveway when I got the email that I was invited for an interview. Guys, I'm not joking. Remember, I was that obsessive kid. Guys, I freaked the hell out, freaked out. And I remember that when I got to SGC, it's such a unique business that I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if the employees here would look at me like, look at this kid, he knows nothing about anything, almost like the expertise was beyond reachable to a degree. So I specifically remember before my interview, I made it a point I used Quizlet, it's called. I memorized every baseball Hall of Famer to ever enter the Hall of Fame. There's hundreds of them. I was able to list them off in alphabetical order. Like I studied up on this stuff to such a degree. The truth is, guys, you could probably see I'm a different kind of like business leader, but the one thing you're never going to beat me on is a passion for the craft or the customer, because I am as true to that as you're going to get. And I may have, I have my flaws, like I guess everyone, but that is something you can't touch me there. I win, that kind of thing.
That's dope.
Yeah. So anyway, I started the company. I work hard, JD. That obsession only grew. And I got extremely lucky, and imagine an opportunity opened up, and credit to the ownership of SGC. They took a massive gamble. I mean, putting me in any kind of position. At the time, I was the director of operations, but the truth is that was pretty close to CEO at the time. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they went with the most passionate, the one who just wanted to see SGC go boom the most is, like I said, credit to them. And to be honest, thankfully I put people around me who are just unbelievable. And those people helped us basically go boom. And it's just such a special thing to eat. I have chills even thinking about the early days. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
And how long have you been at SGC for?
I joined SGC in around January of 2018.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Wow. And I started
right before the madness.
Yeah, man. And I'm so thankful for that, because, a lot of people, I don't want to say judge me as such a negative connotation, but they they judge a book by its cover. They
Sure.
see a younger guy, and especially a lot of the vintage community. There's not too many, especially at the time I was like 24. There's not too many 24-year-olds that could kind of keep up and really have that level of appreciation. And I am so thankful that I got to SGC in 2018 rather than 2020, because I saw the hobby before all of this, and in particular worked for a vintage grading company when grading was I don't mean the grading itself, I mean the businesses, I guess, that were grading companies were so different than today. And my staff kind of, as a joke or ragging on me, they say, you're 28 years old, but you're actually the most experienced grading leader in the industry. And they're right. All of these other CEOs came in 2020, 2021, or, a merge, an acquisition. They led a tech company, obviously Matt had a tremendous amount of accomplishments going into PSA, and he was a card collector. But the bottom line is he may have more CEO experience, call it, but I was here first.
Agreed.
Yeah,
that's always good, man. When you have somebody at the helm like that not only has the business knack, because you have to have that, right? You have to have the business knack to run a business, but then at the same time can merge those two things with a legitimate passion for what the business is doing, right? I mean, you can plug a CEO in just about anywhere, but to have one that has the passion for that market and to actually drive it forward with that passion it's probably I want to say probably, and maybe the biggest part of the success that you guys have had is not only your leadership abilities, but then also the fact that you have a knack for this whole thing to begin with, and that a lot of that's passion driven. I would say is probably a big chunk of the success that you guys have had, which has been great, man.
Yeah, look, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that. I mean, I will say this though, like, I think our customer base deserves to know, we're not a publicly traded company, but at the end of the day, when you're buying an SGC card, in a sense, you're betting on SGC's reputation. You're betting, and I do want everyone to know that if I happen to think that more than, I guess, leadership or the passion, I'm very proud of the fact I am self-aware. And what that means is that what I need to fill in for myself, it actively, I've grown so much. I literally have almost grown up being the leader of SGC. Like, I look at my early, interviews or whatever it is when I was 24, 25. And it's really, I have a long way to go, but I've come a long way.
But you've come a long way. Yeah, of course.
Speaking of your early interviews, right? The thing that sold me on you guys, and well, there are two things. One, the all black slab. When I got back into collecting, I remember going on eBay and I was looking and I was like, what the hell is this? And I was like I was instantly attracted to it because that's back being a 90s kid, like the Fab Five and black socks and the whole thing. And I was like, damn, this is sick. So I was hooked there. But then when you did that interview, on Cardboard Chronicles, I was like, this dude is ballsy. He's got his shit together. And you won me over that day as a customer forever. Like, I was very impressed. I was like, I could tell you were young. I didn't know much about you, but I was like, you know what? I like this man.
We like where he's going.
Yeah.
And you know what? And the other thing too is, like, again, you came out couple months after the fact and we're like, my bad.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, it's not right, but you owned up to it, which it's very hard for people to own up to stuff.
Yeah.
It's very easy for people to either hide behind something or just,
or
remain quiet. But you came back out and you're like, listen, guys, I told you to send me your cards. You did. You sent me a lot. But I learned from that, and I'm not making the same mistake ever again.
Right.
And that, to me, is the sign of a good leader. Because I'm not tooting my own horn, but I get it as someone who manages people all day long and kids and whatnot.
Yeah.
It is what did I do there? Why am I'm glowing like an angel right now on my screen?
Well, look at
it's your aura, bro.
Yeah, you know what? It's true. My presence, it's I'm like a Greek god.
Exactly. As if you didn't look good enough.
As if you weren't already beautiful. I mean,
honestly, what happened? Anyway,
doesn't matter.
That stuff to me, Pete, was like, things that I just look for as a guy that can resonate with a company and just say to myself, like, the man learned, he's moving forward, and that's it. Like I was like, man, that was good stuff to me. So
it means, thank you, man. That truly, like, it really does matter to me. I try to tell people all the time when they leave a nice comment, or they just tell me how they feel about SGC or what we've done. And I try to express, like, so many people say, oh, thank you, that means a lot. Like, that really, ask my wife if that means a lot. And she'll be like, believe me, this means a lot to the guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so into this work, guys, honestly. I don't want to say in an unhealthy way, but I am obsessed with people saying they love SGC, and obsessed with turning around detractors, and obsessed with just growing this brand. It's really special. And there you go. I think the one thing that you could always count on with SGC is the sentiment that I guess I was conveying early on, which is that we are just like you. We do care. This isn't just some sales pitch. This really is a team. It's kind of like a feel-good team. Like, we're founded on the right principles. We check the card 3 times before that grade goes out. That is always going to be SGC. And as we continue to evolve, and we must, because let's face it, the support that we've had up until this point is certainly not, it's not a right of ours to have the hobby support. It's a privilege. And I just want everyone to know that, will there be mistakes made in the future? I'm sure there will be. And I bet you that we're a little slower maybe to roll out or accomplish exactly what you're hoping for. But I do mean it when I say that it's very, very easy in this industry to do things not the right way.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, we've seen time and time again. And I can just say, guys, I truly am. I'm the guy. I'm very lucky to say I'm the guy at SGC, and not on my watch type thing. It's just not going to happen. It's just not.
No, that's clear. That, like, if there's nothing else that people take away from you,
it's that.
And if they haven't really paid attention to you before, whether it's been on Instagram or a Facebook post or whatever it is, when you guys do your announcements and things like that, I don't think you've ever said something that, like, as far as relating to SGC, right? I mean, you could be bullshitting people left and right behind the wheel, or whatever. But like, as far as the company goes, you've hit on everything you've said. Like, everything you guys have done, like the turnaround time, everything. Like, listen, guys, we're doing this, we're doing that, bing bang, whatever it is. It's always remained consistent, much like the grading, which has remained consistent. The promises, or the promotions, whatever you want to call it, right? The marketing that you've come out, your statements, you've practiced what you've preached, and that's huge, man.
And that's huge. Yeah,
that's like very rare nowadays.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, JD. Is that, like, that it's interesting that we're like, obviously we want to give the accolades, right? I'm all about giving flowers when you can, right? Not, but the big thing is that, like, we're talking about this like it's something that is rare, and unfortunately it is. That's the problem, right? The transparencies, the willingness to be vulnerable, and at a point where, you made a mistake. Hey, we asked for cards, you guys sent them in droves, and holy crap, did we miss did we miss the mark on that one? But rest assured, we're never going to make this let this happen again. One of the things I always like to talk to and this is in my professional career, is when I always like to tell this story about a Toyota. If for those of you who understand operational excellence and Six Sigma and all this other crap, I'm saying things that people probably don't even care about. But
I don't know what that is. But
it's all about operational excellence, right? And trying to remove waste from your processes, right? And so there's a story that's always told about this, where a die manufacturer actually went to Toyota and said, hey, we have this new die that we feel is gonna improve your manufacturing efficiency by 25%, right? So they go and they pitch this idea, and Toyota says, you know what, man, this is amazing. You guys are amazing. This die is amazing. It's going to increase our production by 25% in this particular sector. We're so excited about it. We'll call you guys in a year. And the guy's like, in a year? What are you talking about, a year? Well, here, man, let's go. I got them on the shelf. Let's roll. And the guys from Toyota said, hold on a second. Your problem is that you're only going to make this part of our process more efficient by 25%. We have to figure out how the rest of this thing is going to play out. And I think that's one of the things that people don't understand when it comes to the growth of a company, especially what you guys have been through over the last 18 to 24 months. This enormous amount of growth, if not handled properly, and if it's not maintained, if it's not being managed in a very specific way, can ultimately kill a company. And when it comes to, like, you guys have got all this, all this influx of work, but you have to be able to build out the proper processes to be able to keep a good flow going. And if it's one thing that I've always said about you guys is that pay attention to what the core competencies are of a company, right? Is making sure that turnaround times, like you said it at the beginning of this conversation, your turnaround times is something that you guys hold extremely dear. But in my opinion, one of your guys' biggest strengths, yeah, the turnaround times are great, but to me, that's a luxury, right? That's a great thing to have. But for you guys, in my opinion, it's the consistency of the grading, right? And the accuracy of the grading. I don't think in my 2 years that I've been doing grading with you guys, have I ever gotten a card that I was like, what the hell are they thinking? There is no way. I have never felt the urge to crack and resubmit an SGC card. And I may not always agree with the grade. I probably felt like it should have been a 9.5, but it was a 9, or I maybe thought it was a 10 and it came back a 9 or a 9.5. But never am I going to get these big swings where I'm like, these guys are on crack. What, like, there is nothing on this,
right? And
then go to crack it, resubmit it, and then get the right grade the second time. Like, so, I say all that to say that, like, what you guys have done is amazing. I know we said we weren't going to get into grading, but I just think it's such a big part of the hobby right now, where I think everything's distorted and we aren't really looking at the right things to judge grading companies by the merits that we should be judging them on.
Not to discount, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, that's my point.
Sorry about that, but
no, you good.
First off, I certainly agree with that sentiment to a large degree. I don't want to discount the criticisms towards SGC, because those criticisms are what gets me out of bed very early in the morning and has me staying at the office very late. And they're legit ones, don't get me wrong. But the collector in me who knows what goes on here, and unfortunately I do know more, not like I work at other places, but I do know more about the inner workings, I guess, of the industry than your average collector, obviously, in the position I'm in. And I've lived it myself, so I know what I could have prioritized when, and if we did this, we would have made a lot more. Honestly, we would have made a lot more money sometimes.
Right.
But I just refuse, and I have to be honest as well. There's been so much institutional money coming into the space and consolidation. And a lot of those types do not like me because I don't function off of
the same.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
The metrics aren't the same.
Right. Profits and losses, guys. If I'm not looking at that, we're not going to be here.
Sure.
I'd be lying. I'd be lying if I said that doesn't matter. But there have been times where people have said, why didn't you make this move? Or why did you make this move? And I'll say something. Well, if I made that move, I would have lost the trust of the people who have gotten us here. And sure, I would have made more money in the short term, but we would be that kind of thing is not what those people want to hear most of the time. And I think a big reason why SGC remains the only, as again, to my knowledge, the only major grading company that still is the same exact, quite literally, grading company it was, in 2019, 2020, as far as like ownership, as far as the leader at the helm, which is, again, myself. I mean, we're the only ones where nothing's really like changed to my knowledge. And I think the reason that is because we refuse to bend and we refuse to change our, I guess you'd say, priorities in favor of, it would be a lot more profitable. Like, the truth is, guys, I would probably make a lot more money if I just let turnaround time go completely out of control. And if I, almost, for lack of a better term, hoard out my grading at every show.
Turned it out.
It's just, there's so many things. I mean, the truth is, like, any business, if this is just not the model that they would recommend. And the reason, guys, is because when I'm immediate, I don't know what's going to come in a week. I don't have a way to forecast that. That's very against the rules. But you know what? I'm a collector. I'm sorry. Why would a collector want to wait a week when they could wait a day? So I choose to remain not overstaffed necessarily, but I like a healthy amount of employees around me. So we don't have to be fearful that we're falling behind. So I'm not going on an apology tour because we made a mistake. And they look at that as fat. That's what they do. That's fat. And you know how I look at it? I look at it that I'm pleasing my collectors every single time, because while I'm telling them that it's going to be 5 to 10 days, I'm completely, pardon the French, bullshitting them because it's going to be one day, and I know it. And the truth is, things are about to get a lot better from here. I don't want to say a whole lot because, unfortunately, it seems like when SGC does something, everybody else feels they need to follow and do something. So I like to almost honestly,
the one day
thing. Experience. I like to try to, I have a big mouth, but I like to limit myself to a degree. But it's like, that is what you get with SGC, but I don't want that to be a replacement for the massive amount of benefit that a few almost like, call it Silicon Valley tech guys, entrepreneurs, people can bring to the table. So in other words, what I'm trying to say here is not that it's my way or it's the wrong way. No, it's just that I'm doing it the right way. What I need to now fill in and improve on is the tech universe, is the fact I want collectors to have that, almost, speaking of Pokemon, that Pokédex, where they could pull it out and go and enjoy their SGC cards like some other companies are allowing their collectors to enjoy. The problem is they're not grading the cards as accurately and consistent. Like, we have what matters most.
The foundation.
Exactly. Don't take that as an excuse. And now Pete's getting all passionate.
I love it, man.
Don't take that as an excuse, though, that we do have our core nailed down so tight, as an excuse to not do the other things. No, I'm just talking about the list of priorities here, and understand, for all of those kind of SGC fans or any hobbyists in general, we see what we're not doing right now. And as you can imagine, I have a big board right here, and all of the things going on that big board. It's not about, grade better, grade better, grade better. Let's put it that way. It's about an app. Why is there no SGC app? And I got to tell you guys, there is just a lot. Why aren't we a media? Why aren't we producing the hobby content?
Yeah, the content.
Explaining isn't out there. Why don't we have these? I don't want to say, I guess what I'm saying is partnerships, but in the right way. What I mean is, I like to let collectors, I like to know that what I'm doing is helping collectors win. And there's a lot of partnerships I could just do, but I only like to do them if I truly feel like we're helping the hobby. And there is a lot of room for that. And we're going to be, there's just a lot left undone here. So as much as I love hearing about, as much as I love talking to you guys, who honestly are SGC fans, there are so many others that are not. And I try to appear on their shows as well, hear their perspectives. I go live, I take questions live, because I am not running away from these problems. It is what literally, that's my, guys, that's like my life's goal right now. Nail that, so that's kind of where my headspace is at.
So, all right, that was an epic 53 minutes of the beauty of this podcast. Omar and I do little planning. Like we have to like our jobs.
You never know.
Like our jobs require so much like planning, and like
this is fun for us.
This is like, so walk me through. Pete goes to a card show, and what are you looking for on an average day? Like, you mentioned you're a big baseball guy. Who's your favorite baseball player? Who's your guy that you collect?
So with baseball, I only collect vintage. I'm just being real. I mean, every collector is very different. And
so define what that is for us, Peter. Vintage.
Sure. So what that is for me is I try to collect what I'm currently buying is the stuff that I'm just like, It's my favorite stuff, but it's very costly. So I try to be very mindful. Honestly, if I'm being honest, I'd love to buy players. I'd love to buy, who's a player? Carlton Fisk, Carl Yastrzemski. I'd love to buy these players. I think that there's just more, unfortunately, there's not enough 28-year-olds like myself that even know who Carl Yastrzemski is, which is insane to a guy like me. But unfortunately, I guess I'm an old soul to some degree. So I try to gravitate towards like the Ruths, the Mantles, the Cobbs, the Wagners, in very low grade, granted. Those are even in very low grade. I just picked up a Gaudy Ruth. I actually posted it on the SGC Pete Instagram. Everyone
there you go. I'm gonna ask you about that in a second.
There you go. I just posted it on my Instagram. It's a red Ruth. It's the 149 in a 3, and it's a gorgeous 3. You know, but that card is really valuable. So anyway, not to get off topic, but anyway, when it comes to baseball, I'm like into the GOATs vintage, and that could be anything from literally, I'd say I have a 1910 Cobb bat off shoulder to a I'm trying to think of let's say 1955 Clemente stuff. When it comes to basketball, I'm only modern, and I don't collect vintage basketball because if I'm being honest with you guys, I just don't have. I did not grow up a basketball fan at all. I hated basketball, and upon entering SGC, what I realized is, wow, basketball cards are really cool too. So I ended up getting into basketball, but only I'm like a modern basketball guy. Then even like I said before, Pokemon, I'm only first edition base set because those cards are really the only ones that do something for me. So it's just this like up and down. I break my own rules sometimes, but it's so much fun. And God, I want the hobby to get back to a place. I always say in 2020, I have like 2 lifelong best friends. One of them collected cards with me his whole life. He was a chubby kid right along with me, going to the card store every day. And then I had another friend who was almost like too cool to be collecting cards. And I remember in the heat of 2020, guys, he came over my apartment and he had blasters on him. It was 2020 Topps Chrome. And I was like, if Josh is collecting cards.
This is getting
wow. You know, and I want that so badly again. It's like not even funny. And I want to be able to buy a 1960 Topps number 148 Carl Yastrzemski rookie. And I don't know about the investment side of that card, and it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely insane. And cards are expensive, you know, and it is important that we're mindful of what we're buying, obviously. It's also why it's such a nice break from reality when you just have fun with a Gary Sheffield 6-piece relic in an SGC 7, you know, that kind of thing.
It's, you know, it's like, so like for me, right, kind of on the flip side, like having a company in the sports card space, right, with Card Hedge, one of the things I've learned for me as the guy that's building our database and you know, reaching out to people and connecting partnerships and all this other stuff that we do. The hard part for me, Pete, as a collector, is when I'm loading in, like right now, I'm loading heavy 90s baseball. And that was like my golden age of baseball. That's when I was growing up. And I'm going through these sets, loading them in. And as I see the cards, and I'm like, I get in these awful, awful rabbit holes. And like, I can't get myself out. And it's like really bad. And then I'm going to be on a 90s. I just did it. Before I had kids, I was a huge Griffey guy. I had boxes of Griffey. When I came back in 2020, I was like, you know what? I'm going to scratch that basketball itch that I had back in the day that I never fully, you know,
dove into.
And I was like, I'm not buying any Ken Griffey cards. Not doing it. And the other day, I bought a Ken Griffey card. And since then, I bought 4 more. And I'm like, yeah, there it is. Well, I'm back.
Right. Yeah.
I just did the same thing with Elijah, right? I've been so hard on Şengün for the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. Majority of my pickups have all been around Şengün just because I love the kid so much. And then the other day, same thing. Gold, Elijah gold, auto, fast break popped up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it was a little off-centered, so it wasn't always, wasn't the best example, but there's still only 10 of them out there. So, I went for it, and now I'm back on that I got like on my watch list now, I got like 50 Elijah that I'm like chasing now. And it's good to get into those little niches, man, to kind of scratch that, like you said, you had an itch there that you wanted to scratch, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, now you're right back into this rabbit hole that there's nothing to get out.
I just also think cards being so valuable, it's a blessing and it's a curse. If they weren't so valuable, I mean, I would have maybe it is a blessing because I would have way too many. I mean, it would be not.
I'm completely demoralized at the moment because I have this rainbow chase that I've been working on for Elijah for almost 2 years now, going on about 2 years now, that I'm down to like 3 cards that I need, right? And one of the ones that I need pops up on eBay and it's on an auction. And I'm like, this is going to suck, man, because it's to 10, it's a gold. So there's out there that are like collecting nothing but gold stuff. Like, so I'm screwed. So I, scrape the pennies together, start moving some stuff and trying to put that little bank account together, and finally put a nice little number together. I break my $150 rule, and I go, you know what? We're gonna throw one bid out there, and hopefully it's enough. And it wasn't enough. No. And now I'm just thinking to myself, how much energy and time and money, more importantly, am I wasting on this prism chase that I've put myself on for whatever godforsaken reason, and I'm missing out on like all these other like on-card auto game worn patches from the 90s and stuff like that I could be collecting that are more meaningful to me. And honestly, this very conversation that we're having now is really kind of, really throwing me over the fence about like, all right, man, you know what? Forget about this modern rainbow chase crap. That's probably a money grab anyway. Let's get to this. Let's get to this, because I mean, you just threw up that patch, that relic with all the cool stuff on it, and I'm really thinking like, you know what? I think I might just switch directions here and start going. But again, that's the beauty of this all, right? Is like in the middle of all this collecting that we're doing, we're realizing things, we're shifting, we're moving, we're buying, we're selling, and then we get in these obsessions, and then we let them go, and then move on to other things. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I would do without it, to be honest with you.
Totally. And look, even in the most modern cards out there, I'm talking about the sets that came out this year, last year. Mm-hmm. I'll see things pretty consistently where I'm like, all right, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Like I was super fascinated. I remember it was a while back, but there was a LaMelo Ball permit to dominate. And then I was informed, I was educated on the fact that I believe in their second year and later on, it becomes license to dominate. And I just thought that was so clever. Yeah. The card is a great looking card. It's a beautiful card.
Yeah.
And like, whether it's rare, whether it's not rare, I was like, there you go, Panini. Yeah. Like that makes some sense. Exactly. That is such a cool, that is such a cool creation there, however you want to say it. And I guess what I'm trying to say, Omar, is that there are things about the modern hobby that we all wish were different. And let's face it, if we had podcasts and YouTube and Instagram back in the 90s, we would have had our own set of complaints and problems and stocks. And, I think it's so important to recognize that since the 2020 boom, it's been like a year and a half type thing.
Sure.
And the bottom line is that, let the hobby kind of, figure itself out to a degree. Give the hobby the same grace that I was given early on when I made my mistakes. Like, guys, it's such a new thing, and we're going to have to work together if this is going to go boom like we all want it to. So it's almost like I really try to be fair with my criticism and be real about it. Because I in my position, I should be a yes man. Every card is awesome. And But I like to, I don't think I'm helping by doing that. So I like to be real with it, but I also like to inject that optimism of like, it's just one year set. There's going to be a set.
There's going to be more.
Change it, that kind of thing.
Interesting. It's a good take.
Yeah, cards are just so cool, man, that like even I enjoy teaching my wife when I'm opening packs like about almost the pyramid and how, I was a baseball guy. I've actually moved away from modern baseball into modern basketball. But in my early days at SGC, I was chasing, it was so fun. God, the rookie class, 2018, was Ohtani, Acuna, Albies, Soto. I mean, it was stupid. Oh. Exactly. Even Hoskins was big back then. And Duhar was big back then, if anyone remembers that name.
Yeah.
So, I would teach her about the pyramid, how it's great that we got a purple, but that's out of like $2.99 or $2.50.
Right.
We're looking for the gold. That's out of $50 in baseball. And it all makes sense. It really does. You gotta manage it. You gotta tweak it. You almost have to continue to perform the maintenance on your card sets. Not that I'm a manufacturer and I have no experience doing that. This is just purely collector. That's what's coming out right now.
Yeah.
But there is something real there. It's not like this was some bubble and it's all going to crap. This is a very real thing. We just have to adjust to kind of fix what got out of whack a little bit.
Yeah. It's like everything went crazy for a second. It's like, all right, everybody relax for a minute. Let's that was crazy. Let's you know what I mean? And let's get to a level.
We were at a Rage Against the Machine concert. Now we got to go to like Kenny G. Like you just gotta.
Exactly.
All right, I got one question, and this is a weird one. It's got nothing to do with like grading or anything like that.
I'm still tripping on
It's something that goes through my head though all the time because you've been talking about vintage. At what point do we, as a hobby, reclassify what's vintage, what's modern, what's ultra modern, right? Because it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that a card was considered vintage, at least when I was growing up, pre-1980. And I forget the whole reasoning why and all that other stuff, right? But if that's the case, should certain cards now be moved into a different class? And like those are things that kick around in this massive dome of mine from time to time. What do you think about that, Pete? As like a collector, do you think like it's fine the way it is, or should we? Is there like I don't even know if other people actually think about this, but like this is just the stuff that goes through my head, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to use the term vintage because obviously what it represents to me, in all honesty, is the older cards. That's what it means to me when I use that word.
Yep.
However, at the same time, it's the same way, in other aspects of society, people say we don't like labels because they alienate certain people or groups. I actually believe that to be true in the hobby as well. There are so many more eras. How do you not give the 90s basketball that 90s. Guys like Omar were that was their hobby entry or they'll always be most passionate about? How do you just call that modern? And how do you instead just call, how do you call a 1955 Topps card vintage, but then you're also calling the 1889 old Judge set vintage? These are very different eras of what card collecting meant. And the reason I appreciate the term pre-war is because I think it's the most accurate grouping of multiple eras, call it, of card collecting.
There's less ambiguity in that title, right?
Exactly. But the truth is there really is no need for these titles at the end of the day because I consider myself just a card fanatic. I have preferences. I have favorite eras or favorite sets or even certain preferences by sport. But I think it's fair to say, JD, that in the year 2050, they're not going to look at a card from 2005 the same way they look at the 2050 Topps set, and it's important to recognize that it's a totally different hobby today. I mean, back when the vintage word was defined by that specific year you're saying, it was probably when there was card shows that were all vintage, and then they started signing these modern cards. Those are the devil, that kind of thing. I just think it's hard to say, and there's no right answer, which shows you it's probably just not even an effective.
It's cool. It's cool to hear like people's thoughts on it because I consider myself like mainly a 90s collector. Like I'm stuck in music wise, you know, somewhat of my dress, like the way I wear my clothes. Like I'm still like, you know, rocking flannel shirts and ready to go to Pearl Jam.
Nice.
But like, yeah, no, it makes sense. You know, I see that, but you know, just every once in a while I get these random thoughts.
Like, what is this? Like, to me, this is an era of cards, and that era is where when I went to my local card store, it was all that. I mean, that's what I was interested in, and they'd have a vintage case. I wasn't even looking at it.
Yeah,
I was like, who wants those pieces of paper without actual value in there?
Right,
piece of something,
right.
You know, and it's just it almost does everything a disservice when you try to group these things in these massive.
Comic books, I think that, you know, they have their own, you know, the way they split up their eras, right? The you know, golden age, the silver, and then the bronze age, and all this other, they're all kind of like segmented by it's almost a way to categorize, isn't it? But I think if, like you mentioned, right, that the term modern is such a large spread, you know, that it doesn't really do it justice, you know, like guys like myself who's into the, you know, late 80s, early 90s, I'm talking about 87, 88, 89, you know, up to 99, 2000, 2001. That's my years, right? So so what era is that? That's modern? Like, okay, it's modern, but it's not modern like 2022 modern. Like, I can't. Are we saying that my collecting of Hakeem Olajuwon and Alperen Şengün, who's the 2022 rookie, that's the same? That's not the same. It's not even the same era of basketball. The game is completely different.
Omar, have you seen? I think it's Topps. I think the product is Topps Diamond Icons, which is a modern baseball set. If you're not familiar with it.
Familiar,
I opened a box a few months ago, and I received a Chris Sale cleat card, and it wasn't the first time I'd come across this. I was aware that the product had cards like this. The card is about that.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's got a little spike in it. How do you say
that's the card?
Right. How do you say that's the same kind of card as a 1990 Topps? You know, no name on front, Frank Thomas.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Totally
it's just different. We got to push for that. I think my man Vic, he has a good term of it. Reform, right? Is that we got to push for that era reform of like to kind of get everybody on the same page. It's like what is this? What are these eras? How do we categorize them? How do we talk about them? And how do we do it with the minimal amount of ambiguity to where everybody understands what we're talking about when I say retro versus vintage, or when I say modern versus ultra modern versus present.
I say it all the time. I was pondering the idea of going into teaching right up to the point where I was in college. And then I got to SGC pretty shortly after college. And I remember once I was educated on all of these nuances, the history of the industry, I said to myself, I'm like, there needs to be a class on trading cards, not only taken by card collectors. I'm not saying the hobby gets so big that I'm talking that there is so much to be learned and gained from an educational standpoint about what, like, these products, and I'm going to get into my real like card passionate speech now. These products are truly products of the time period.
Yes.
I mean, I could give you guys, you know, I don't know how into like I know Omar's not so much like a pre-war guy. I don't know about you, JD, but like
little. I mean, I have a little knowledge.
It's freaking fascinating. Like why they came up with these things and how hard it was to obtain these things. And the fact that to have that card in the grade of an 8 today is like literally it shouldn't exist. It's an impossibility based on the way kids treated their card. It's just there's so much awesomeness there in cards across the board that I don't know. I could talk. This conversation in particular, I could literally talk until the end of time because I'm just so into it.
Is that what is that?
I have
helmet.
Yep. So this is what I think 36 John Player and Sons. I picked this card up. My stepfather is a retired pilot. One of his things that he did. So I grabbed this kind of to give to him.
Look at that. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm with you.
And then I don't even know what the hell this is, but it's
it like 1931.
I'll tell you what. You know what, JD? I'm gonna do something cool. I'm gonna do something cool right now. I've never done this before. Sometimes people have asked me like, "Hey, you have anything cool around the office to show?" I will be right back. This will take me 2 seconds.
Oh, we'll take it. We'll take it. I actually saw somebody break that product that he was talking about, that diamond icons, and that freaking card, man, is like 3 inches thick.
Yeah, it's like a brick.
Yeah. And I think it's the only card you get in that set. Like you might get 1 or 2 other cards, but like the thing is like this, man.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And he's right. Why are we classifying that as you know, with the same within the same category? It doesn't even make any sense. It's a gold frame.
So speaking of the plane set, this is hanging in the SGC office.
Nice.
Oh, and this is an original. This is an original advertisement. Obviously, I mean, just check. Like, I don't know. I'm
a sucker for that kind of stuff, man.
Like, save them, trade them with your friends.
With your friends,
you know, like yep. It's just. I'm like, look, boys and girls. There's
airplane pictures.
Get these new airplane pictures. Like, that is why cards are awesome. Like, it's just like, that's history. That is, I don't know.
Something that's crazy. Like, if you think about it too, like there's so many aspects to all of this, right? Like, just take Garbage Pail Kids, right? For as insane as that, like, as that artwork is, I mean, you got to think about it. We're talking about the dead center of the 90s, where this stuff was like, you know, just so grotesque and like, you know, it was just crazy. I remember I had some and my mom saw them and she was like, what the hell is that? Like, that's, you know, this guy's like peeling his face off his skull. And it's like, and I'm like, Mom, this is awesome. And she's like, that's not awesome. What is it? Where's the category for that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy.
Just like that, Omar, a very similar, like, I guess, unique set in that sense is do you know what wacky packages are?
No. Wacky.
So we grade wacky packages, and the ones that come in are usually vintage. Do you know what a wacky package is, JD?
No.
It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like it's a play on advertisements. It's like a parody of products that are very common in society.
Okay.
So imagine it's almost like Garbage Pail Kids in the way it'll say like what's the famous Garbage Pail Kid? Nick, Nasty Nick.
Nasty Nick.
Right. And imagine instead it's like it'll be like SpaghettiOs, but it's like I'm doing a poor job of explaining.
No. I'm looking it up right now.
It's a play on. I don't know if you could like share your screen, Omar.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh,
I see what this is. This is like, okay, this is almost like when what's his name, Warhol did the can of soup.
Exactly. So instead of tricks, you have trucks.
Like, gotcha.
Yes. And they've been making these things for decades, basically. And I remember I was on my phone one day. Exactly. I was on my phone one day looking at SGC, I don't know, auctions ending soon or something. And my wife looked over my shoulder and she said, "Is that a wacky package?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I collected those as a kid." And I'm like, "You collected something?" Is it like, I just was so happy my wife was talking about that there's cards like for truly, I don't know. I feel like there's cards for everyone. I always say I'll feel like, I guess the hobby is where I always dreamed it would be when like my mother-in-law is collecting cards of some kind. That kind of thing.
Well, it's just back full circle to this conversation about your grandpa, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like here he is, you know, a few decades later, but he's in the mix.
Yep.
You know, that's all it takes, man. I did the same thing with my brother, right? My brother wasn't into collecting at all. And then he, you know, obviously I'm a big sports guy. He's not really into sports, but once he found Star Wars, it was a wrap. He could talk to you about Star Wars cards for hours. He knows everything. Right. He is. I mean, I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that knows more about him than him. And that all happened within the last 3 or 4 years, right?
You know,
he found it and got into it.
Omar, in all honesty, when I first got to SGC, we had a group of probably 5 people who would send us these really, really wacky vintage soccer cards. And they were incredibly difficult to process because there was so little information on them. These were not T206s. These were very unique, rare cards from foreign countries. And I remember our team would almost just be like, oh, look who sent us another order. Like, look at this wacky stuff. And the truth is, that was just it was waiting to explode, that industry, meaning soccer cards. How could soccer cards have not been bigger sooner when it's such a global sport? And lo and behold, now soccer is one of the fastest growing sectors of the trading card industry. So I look at all of these things where we scratch our heads and we say, why isn't it like this, or it should be like this? It'll happen. It's just a matter of how we get there and how long it takes.
We just got to wait for that. We got to wait for that small niche within the niche to find it and to fall in love with it and to cherish it in the same manner that they want to preserve, grade, and then.
JD, you said, I think it was your dad or your father-in-law or someone who was the pilot.
Yeah, my stepfather. Yeah.
So, I mean, think about it. I have to think that there are think about how many pilots there are out there.
Right. Yeah.
And then you explain to them, hey, you see this set of cards? These were put in candy or cigarette packs almost 100 years ago. Yeah. And the artwork is all original. And the reason they did it is to sell this product. And look at the appreciation back then that children had for airplanes, because they were so revolutionary. Oh my God, there's an airplane above my house. Yeah. I think that there are a lot of pilots out there that would say, you know what? How much does that thing cost? $30? I want that thing.
I'll take that. Yep. And then we're off to the races.
That we need to each carry our own, I guess, responsibility. We're all foot soldiers here.
Yeah,
to speak to those pilots, and to let them know, because the cards themselves, the manufacturers over the last, call it century and a half, they've done their job. They made cards really, really beautiful, really, really cool and unique. And all we have to do is just preach,
Keep talking about it. We got to keep doing this.
Exactly.
Right. We got to keep doing this and having conversations about this stuff, connecting these people with things that they can ultimately, collect and cherish it. Listen, if you guys could see my desk right now, I mean, I've been sorting, I've been doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's madness over here.
So let me ask you this, right? And I know we're getting close on time. For both of you, what was the first card that really kind of did it for you? When you were like, I know that like this is like for me, like I'm into cards, like you knew it was something a little bit more than mom taking you to Toys R Us because you got a good report card or some crap like that. Like, what was that card? Because I have two very specific ones I can remember, and I'll let you guys go first.
Go ahead, Pete. I got one.
It's so hard. I have many cards that have a really deep appreciation for, and kind of like a story to go along with them. It's so hard to say, man. I have very very fond memories of my childhood, the card shop locally to me in New York. And actually, if you do go to my Instagram, you'll see a picture of that card shop. I'm outside of it. They used to hold, we called it card flipping events. And what you do is you flip two cards and you call while they're in the air, match or no match. And if they're both face up, that's a match. If one is face up, one's face down, that's a no match. And basically you keep playing. It's like an elimination game. And the card shop owner was an awesome elderly guy who would give just a free prize just to have the neighborhood kids in. And it's actually a picture of me. It's hanging on my wall right here as well. It's a picture of me and my brother outside the card shop in the year probably 1998, something like that. Yeah. And anyway, in that card shop, my younger brother, we opened up a pack. It was a Don Russ product. Today, it would be looked at as like total junk. Let's put it that way. And we each are opening these packs, and he was the youngest of us by far. I'm with my friends. He's 3 years younger. He's a baby at the time, and he pulled a Lou Gehrig back card, which in the era of relics, that was like. I mean, I probably cried. I probably cried when he pulled that card. And that's kind of the best I could do for you, JD, because there wasn't that card that pulled me in as much. I was hooked once I kind of came across everything, but that's just literally one of a million examples of what cards have done for me.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Omar?
93, 94, Michael Jordan, Fleer Ultra, number 30, base card. Nothing funky about it.
Yep.
just doing the old finger roll, right? I mean, there was nothing fancy about this card, but it's the first time that my dad, we used to, so the LCS that was in our area, he wasn't in a standalone shop. He rented out some space in a Fiesta Mart, which is like a grocery store that we have here. And he rented out a space, and he had an octagon of display cases. And my dad, I begged him, and I don't know if just today he just didn't feel like hearing me or whatever. He's like, fine, what does he want? That one. Okay, fine. Just give it to him. We got to go. It's the first pack I've ever gotten. My dad's ever bought me. I rip it open, and the first card that's on the front, Michael Jordan, number 30. Yep. And that, for me, that was that chase, that feeling, that hair standing up on the back of I was 9 years old, 9 years old, something like that. I went ballistic. And my dad's looking at me like, what are you? Come on, dude, let's go. We got to go. My dad was probably fresh off of work. He's got concrete on his boots. He didn't care about none of that. But for me, man, that is what hooked me. That is probably what cemented me in that era of basketball, because that's my era of basketball. My Rockets were red hot. Jordan was in his prime. Pippen was there. Penny Hardaway and Shaq were doing amazing things at that time. And then for me to get this pack for my dad, which was like, my dad's like the biggest hard ass in the world. He could care about any of that crap. Right. And then, so the one opportunity that I finally get a pack, and then to hit the Jordan, it's like, was insane to me. And that's what I mean, I was done, hook, line, and sinker. I was in, and for me, that's the card that's forever going to be in my head. I've had like 5 or 6 of them, and I need to find one in a decent grade, but I want to pull one. I want to pull one and then send it in and get a decent grade on it, and recreate that situation that happened, 20 something odd years ago, 28, 29 years ago. But that was it for me. That was it. Number 30, 93, 94 Fleer Ultra, base card, finger roll Jordan. That was it for me.
Sweet. I've got 2. So, and they both came via my birthday when I was like probably, I don't know, 10, 11 tops. I used to have a lawnmower business. I'd cut like my neighbor's grass and literally would ride my bike up to the card shop and spend all my money there and like pray to God the grass would grow quick so I could go back to cut everybody's lawn. So there were always 2 cards at the time that I wanted, and I would be buying like Phil Plantier rookies because he was like a red hot Red Sox prospect, and Roger Clemens was my guy, so I'd always be buying Clemens. And then for my birthday, my Nana got me, I brought her to the card shop, and she grabbed this was the first one's going to be like, you mean what? 1990 Leaf Dave Justice rookie card. That card was huge in 1990. And on top of that, she threw in, because she loved me, an Ozzie Smith rookie card. And that was like the greatest birthday. I'm about to be 42 on Thanksgiving, and that was my best birthday, period. Like, still remember it. I can recite the whole damn day.
Yeah.
But those 2 cards, man, that was like, that did it for me. Signed, sealed, delivered. I was hooked.
Hooked. I'm in.
Even when I got away, and the times I've gotten away and come back, the first couple of things I do,
go look for that card.
Ozzie Smith, grab a Dave Justice.
There you go.
And now that I've like kind of like processed all that, now they just keep them, and they're over there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You could tell your kids the story, tell your grandkids the story.
Yeah, I tell my wife, she's like, yeah, okay, great.
Whatever.
I'm like, whatever. I don't even know
whatever, you loser. Buying pictures of grown men.
Yeah. But anyway.
Oh man. Well, Peter, listen, man, we could go on for hours and hours and hours, the 3 of us. But I want to be respectful of your time, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate not only you coming on the show, but for me personally, man. When you got on, I think social media for the first time, you made that great video, man. That I felt like, for me, at that time, when I reposted that video, my caption was "Talk your shit, Peter." But I think it was a really like a motivating thing for you to post at that time about how you guys are moving forward in all of this, right? And I just, again, like I said last time, the amount of success that you guys have had has been amazing. And I really feel like you are one of the people that is really in this for the right reasons. And I think it's because of that in my mind, SGC is number one. But you guys are slowly turning the page for a lot of other folks that are really starting to understand what it's really all about and how SGC really aligns with that. And so congratulations to you guys and your team. I know you got such a great team. I met a lot of those guys out in Dallas. And you know, a lot of that has to do with the team that you got behind you and the leadership that you've presented. And just, you know, I wish you guys the continued success and the best, and the SGC takeover continues, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate every word, man. It means a lot from both of you. Obviously, we work really, really hard. I could say that. Like, we really do. I mean, we want this. If the other guys want this worse than we do, then, man, they're just superhuman. Yeah. We want this so bad. And we would not be here without, you know, just card collectors like you guys. Just the support has been insane. And the truth is, I didn't know. I'd be lying if I said, guys, you know, when this journey really started taking off for us, like things actually changed from a business perspective. It was during such a wacky time. The industry was on fire. The other companies had to shut down. I didn't know how the community would respond when things did come back to normal and everyone was wide open for business. And, you know, the market wasn't just constantly going like this, which obviously couldn't last. And the response has just been unfreaking believable. I mean, we received 6,100 cards yesterday. It just is like, and don't get, this is not me. Look, we don't get 6,100 every day. Don't get me wrong. I'm just
healthy.
trying to say though, guys, that like the fact that this team has accomplished what it has is such a testament to them, because at the end of the day, I'm just like you guys. I just love cards and I try to do right by the hobby, and I'm human, you know? So I appreciate everything, guys. And I mean it to anyone watching this. The fact that I always say this, the fact that you're spending time to listen to what the SGC leader is saying is just the coolest thing in the world to me. It is surreal. And just know that we are our own harshest critics, and we are only going to be better. Look out for you. And we literally owe this hobby freaking everything. So thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been
JD, parting words, brother.
Really fun.
Dude, you guys, I don't know. The way you two just ended, I'm just going to say peace.
Yeah, stop third wheeling, JD. Get out of here.
Yeah, you know, God, I'm just going to take my ball and go home.
There you go.
But I mean it to guys, like you don't have any reason to support us for anything beyond just the, you know, the right reasons, I guess. And it means
that's what's left.
It means a lot, guys. And there are great times to come for SGC and for this hobby. You know, the fact is, you know, as people come and people go, it's almost like I'm not leaving. I'm not freaking leaving. Exactly. Yeah. So it's been really, really fun, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Good stuff, man. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I don't know how you wouldn't. You know what I mean? The most hobby talk we've ever done. This has been an amazing podcast episode. So we appreciate you guys watching. Hit like, subscribe, all that good jazz that we don't ever talk about on here, because we don't really care about pushing this kind of stuff. We're doing it for fun. But we hope you guys enjoyed it. We appreciate you guys watching. Love y'all. Peace.